Joining us today is the Honorable Jerry Patterson, Commissioner of the General Land Office of Texas and Chairman of the Texas Veterans Land Board. Commissioner Patterson was commissioned in the United States Marine Corps as a naval aviator, served in Vietnam, retired as Lieutenant Colonel in 1993. As a state senator, he was the first chair of the Veteran Affairs Committee in the Texas Senate. He was elected land commissioner in 2002 and has done a great deal for the veterans of Texas in leading that agency. Most recently, they opened up the most recent state veterans home, the Watkins Logan Garrison State Veterans Home in Tyler, Texas, and the VLB dedicated the newest Coastal Bend State Veterans Cemetery in Corpus Christi on December 7th, 2011. So I'd like to introduce Commissioner Patterson at this time.
Tom, thank you. Okay, good morning. I've already been threatened with retribution since I'm running 8 minutes late, and I apologize for that. Chief Acevedo, he already left the building. It's unusual that I follow law enforcement. Usually they're following me. Not that I get an inordinate amount of tickets, but anyway. I'm pleased to be with you this morning. We're here for a common goal, and that's helping Texas veterans. That's something that the Texas General Land Office has been involved in since 1837, when we began giving land to veterans of our War of Independence, and that continues to this day, and I'll talk about that a little bit. Tom introduced me as a Marine. Many of you know the old saw, the concept that you can always tell a Marine, but you can't tell him much. And I'm proud to say that not only am I a Marine, my son is a Marine currently on active duty, and he is somewhere near the Straits of Hormuz flying helicopters, Cobra gunships, and I will just suggest that anybody that's in the pirate business in Somalia needs to find a new line of work. Veterans programs are very important to me, and as the Commissioner of the General Land Office, by statute, I chair the Texas Veterans Land Board. I'm proud to say that I've continued, and my staff has continued, the improvements of Texas veterans benefits. My predecessor, David Dewhurst, made it better than it was before. His predecessor, Gary Morrow, made it better than it was before. His predecessor, Bob Armstrong, and it goes back many, many years. It goes back to a former commissioner and chair of the Veterans Land Board who was so focused on making it better that he went to prison. We had a commissioner named Bascom Giles who served from 1939 to 1955 when he was indicted and convicted for land fraud in the Texas Veterans Land Board program. So we've improved things substantially since that time. I plan on leaving office in a graceful, honorable manner. But I do want to talk about some of the things that have changed. I know many of you are familiar with the program. How many folks have used the Veterans Land Board programs here in Texas? Okay, good. You're familiar with the programs. And some folks that have used it maybe 20 or 30 years ago, about 30 years ago, I used it for a land loan, and there's maybe some stigma from past experiences. What I want to tell you today is that the process is infinitely, dramatically better than it was before. It's quicker, it's efficient, and there have been some changes made. When I first did the VLB land loan program, you had to sign up and get on a waiting list, and then when your number came up, you had so many days to close the deal, then you went back to the bottom of the list. But that's not the case anymore. Whether it's home loans, whether it's land loans, whether it's our relatively new Veterans Home program, whether it's our state cemetery program, this is an extremely well-run agency, not because of me. I'm the guy that gets the credit. But while I'm mentioning that, I'd like for all the folks here from the Texas General Land Office VLB to raise your hand or make your presence known in the back, and I can't see that far. But if you got any questions, I know we have a booth out there, but we got gentlemen back there and ladies who are involved in answering your questions. Some of the changes that have occurred. We still have the same eligibility criteria, 90 days of service. However, we no longer have a residency requirement. That was kind of a faux impediment in some cases, where a young man who was just getting discharged at Fort Hood or Fort Bliss or or NAS Corpus or wherever had to be a resident of Texas for a year. We don't go through that shenanigan anymore. I like to say that if David Crockett can come here in January of 1836 and die in the Alamo less than 3 months later, he should be eligible for veterans benefits. He was, and so should a young soldier, sailor, airman, or Marine who gets discharged in Texas. We want those young men and women to stay here and be part of our state and the prosperity that they can enjoy. Review of the land program, it's still $80,000, 7.25% for 30 years. We've changed the program, as many of you know. It's no longer a contract for deed. It's no, you know, it's what am I using the term here correctly? It's no longer, it's a deed of trust transaction. The veteran owns the tract when they make the purchase, as opposed to the VLB still owning it in a contract for deed that doesn't actually come about until it's paid off. Our housing loans are 3.25%. Correction, or $325,000. Current interest rate is 3.6%. We try to be somewhere between 35 and 60 basis points, or a third to over 0.5% lower than FHA and VA. We set that at 4 o'clock on Friday. So our interest rates are lower, and we'll loan $325,000. I feel fairly confident that within a short period of time, that limit will increase from 325 to equal the VA maximum, which I think is 417 or something like that. We don't have a lot of demand for those higher dollar loans, but there are veterans who maybe don't want to combine loans or don't want a cash outlay, and we want to serve those veterans as well. Also, surviving spouses are now eligible for the service-connected discount if their spouse died while on active duty and they entered the military service from Texas. It was mentioned that we have a new veterans home. That's the one in Tyler. It is number 8. We are looking at, hopefully in the not too distant future, having a veterans home in the Houston area. That will be our next one. Thank you. The problem has always been in Houston finding a location. You know, land is more expensive down there than it is in other parts of the state. The Veterans Home in Tyler, we had our grand opening on December 7th. I think it was December 7th. Yeah, it was December 7th. Yeah, Tom, you were there. Thank you. That's the good news. The bad news is we have a waiting list for folks to enter the home. And we haven't got the final approval from one of the regulatory agencies. We're involved in a dispute over the lighting fixtures right now. And I heard some good news yesterday that I hope is true, and hopefully we'll be taking our first resident in the not too distant future. So these are the programs. What have I missed here? The State Veterans Cemetery, as you know, we just dedicated that on 7 December of last year. I would ask anybody who, and I know this is the group, but we want to market to in a little bit of a new direction. We have historically tried to market to veterans. We're going to continue doing that. But it's also very important that we market to folks that are realtors in the title business, in the mortgage lending business, and let them know about the Texas Veterans Land Board programs, because they're the folks that, can tell that veteran, oh, well, you want to go for a VA, but why don't you go for a VLB loan, and you can combine that with a VA. I was a veteran, and frankly, for many years, I knew nothing about the Texas Veterans Land Board home loan program. I knew about the land program. So it's kind of like y'all are the marketing folks for all of us that want to provide greater benefits for Texas veterans. Anyway, I know you're going to have a successful day. I know you're going to learn even more about how to help Texas veterans, and I very much appreciate what you do, and God bless you for your efforts, and God bless Texas. Thank you so much. Thank you.